Kyle Katarn didn't grow up knowing he'd become a hero. He wasn't a chosen one, and he didn't have a legacy of greatness handed to him like the Skywalkers. Instead, his path was carved through hardship, choice, and survival. From a loyal Imperial officer to a rebel hero, and eventually one of the galaxy's most respected Jedi Knights, Kyle's journey was built on grit and a constant struggle between the light and dark within himself. But his story begins somewhere darker, inside the very machine that tried to break him. Now, Kyle wasn't born a rebel. He was raised on Sulon, a quiet moon where he lived under the shadow of his father, Morgan Katarn, a man with ties to the rebellion. Kyle didn't see his father's idealism as a path he needed to follow. In fact, after his father's execution by the Empire, Kyle made a choice that sent him in the opposite direction. He joined the Imperial Academy. Kyle wasn't seeking justice or revenge. He wasn't trying to bring down the Empire for what they'd done to his family. He simply wanted order in a galaxy that had become increasingly chaotic. The Empire promised that, and Kyle, an excellent soldier, believed it for a while. Everything changed when Kyle learned the truth, that it wasn't just circumstance or suspicion that led to his father's death. It was a cold, calculated execution by the very system he had sworn loyalty to. His world shattered. Kyle didn't immediately run to the rebellion. He wasn't motivated by the desire to join the fight for justice. Instead, he fell into the shadows, abandoning the Empire. But still unsure of where he belonged. What do you do when the very foundation of your life falls apart? You survive however you can. In the lawless corners of the galaxy, Kyle found his place as a mercenary. His skills were valuable, but it wasn't about belief in any higher cause. He did what he had to do to get by, taking jobs for credits, using his Imperial training for personal survival rather than galactic ideals. This period of Kyle's life wasn't glamorous. He was lost, bitter, and adrift. The pain of his father's death still fresh, the betrayal of the Empire still burning. In many ways, Kyle was a man without purpose, floating in the galaxy's gray areas, doing what he did best, fighting. But even the galaxy's darkest corners can't hide someone like Kyle forever. One mission would change everything. The Rebel Alliance hired Kyle to infiltrate an Imperial facility and steal the Death Star plans, a mission that would go down in history. But here's the thing, Kyle wasn't a rebel yet. He wasn't some die-hard believer in the cause. For him, it was just another job. But something about this mission felt different. As Kyle navigated the tight security of the facility on Danuta, battling stormtroopers and using every bit of his Imperial training to evade capture, the weight of what he was doing hit him. The Death Star was the embodiment of everything the Empire stood for: control, fear, destruction. And this time, Kyle was fighting against it. By the time he walked away with the Death Star plans, something had shifted. He wasn't just a mercenary anymore. The lines had blurred, and for the first time, Kyle was part of something bigger than himself. His success in stealing the Death Star plans wasn't the end of his involvement with the rebellion. It was just the beginning. Soon, the Rebel Alliance had another mission for him. This time, Kyle was tasked with taking down the Dark Trooper Project. The Dark Troopers were no ordinary stormtroopers. These were heavily armored battle droids, nearly indestructible and designed to crush the rebellion. Tracking them down and stopping their production took Kyle across the galaxy, into frozen wastelands, deadly space stations, and dangerous Imperial bases. Kyle wasn't just fighting machines, he was up against the Empire's obsession with control and dominance. Each time he faced a Dark Trooper, it was a reminder of the cold, mechanical future the Empire was fighting to create. The final confrontation came aboard the Arc-Hammer, the ship producing these monstrosities. The battle with General Rom Mok, the man behind the project, was fierce. Blaster bolts ricocheted off the walls and the ship groaned under the weight of destruction. But when the Arc-Hammer fell, Kyle knew he had struck a blow against something far larger than any droid army. But after every mission, every victory, Kyle felt something deeper calling him. a power he hadn't yet fully understood. Katarn wasn't just any soldier. Beneath the hardened exterior, there was something else brewing. It wasn't until he uncovered the truth about his father's connection to the Jedi and the Valley of the Jedi that Kyle began to realize his own potential with the Force. The Valley wasn't just a site of historical significance, it was a place brimming with power. Power that could be used for great good or unimaginable evil. Guided by the spirit of Jedi Knight Kuran, Kyle began his Jedi training. But Kyle didn't learn the way Luke did. There was no peaceful meditation or quiet moments of reflection. For Kyle, training came on the battlefield, with blaster fire and the ever-looming threat of darkness surrounding him. And that darkness had a name: Jarek. Jarek was a fallen Jedi consumed by the dark side, sought the Valley's power for himself. The final showdown between Kyle and Jarek was more than a duel of lightsabers. It was a battle of will, a clash of everything they represented. The ground beneath them trembled as their lightsabers collided, sending sparks flying. Jarek's voice dripped with arrogance as he tried to sway Kyle. "You fight for nothing, Katarn. I fight for power, the only thing that matters." But Kyle wasn't fighting for power. He wasn't fighting for everything Jarek wasn't, for balance, for justice, for a galaxy that he didn't need to be ruled by fear. With a final powerful strike, Kyle defeated Jarek, saving the galaxy and embracing his true role as a Jedi Knight. This wasn't about being the strongest. It was about Kyle finally understanding who he was meant to be. His journey as a Jedi wasn't a straight path. Even after defeating Jarek, the pull of the dark side was always close. In Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, Kyle sought to understand the dark side, believing he needed to confront it to defeat it. But the dark side isn't something you master. It's something that consumes you, slowly, quietly. Kyle almost lost himself, succumbing to the seductive power of the dark side. It was only through the intervention of Mara Jade that Kyle found his way back. The struggle left a permanent mark on him. Kyle knew, more than most, the fine line that existed between light and dark is what shaped him into the Jedi he would become, one who understood the Force in a way few others did. His legacy was cemented when he became a Jedi Master, serving under Luke Skywalker in the New Jedi Order. But unlike most Jedi, Kyle wasn't bound by tradition. His lessons were hard-earned, learned on the battlefield in the galaxy's darkest corners. Kyle understood the complexities of the galaxy. He knew that sometimes the fight didn't play by the rules. His experience as a mercenary, as a man who had seen both sides of the war, gave him a perspective few others had. And because of that, Kyle was a Jedi Master who fought not just with the Force, but with everything he'd learned along the way. Kyle Katarn's story is one of choice. It's a reminder that heroes aren't born. They're made through decisions they make, through the struggles they endure, and through the paths they carve for themselves. From a mercenary to a rebel to a lost soldier to a Jedi Knight, Kyle's journey is about more than just the battles that he fought. It's about the man he became, a legend built on his own terms. Hope you enjoyed this brief backstory about Kyle Katarn. I always enjoyed playing as him in the Jedi Knight games. Let me know who your favorite character is in Legends, and I will make a video on it. Have a great day, everyone. Until the next one, remember, the Force will be with you, always.